Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Lift up, episode number 73, Standing Brothers Show. And we are right back rocking and rolling here on a beautiful Friday evening in a place that is none of your business. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the program. I am your host, Jacob Standards. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstandards_, and you can follow my co-host Joe, my bro Joe, on Joe Stamberg.
There you
the
go.
Tweety. Show email, thestandingbrothershow@gmail.com. Send us your comments, concerns, questions, email. Folks, join the website, join the adventure, the Patreon. Link down in the description. You want to get a cool t-shirt, get a cool mug to put God's energy drink, notice coffee in. You can do that as well at our Teespring store down below as well. That is the best way to support the show, best way to support us, as well as just your kind passing comments. A kind word goes a long way nowadays, so I really do appreciate those.
Yeah.
Best free way to do that. And then what's the old saying is that it costs nothing to be a good person.
Right.
It's free to be a good person. Joe, how was your week?
Great. Good week. I'm actively watching Dogecoin at the moment. It is sitting at $35. 35 cents.
Could you imagine $35? Oh my god!
I think there'd be a lot of people.
I mean, it's
hanging
already
from
up
ropes.
100 and it's already up 100,000% start or whatever. It's ridiculous.
It's up 62,000%.
Yeah. Okay.
Just in today, it's up on 92%. Just today, it's up almost 10% in just the last hour.
You know, the great Elon Musk said, someone asked him about Dogecoin because he's just kind of poking fun at this. There's so much power this man has, right? He will send a tweet out about something and then it'll just go to the moon.
Literally.
You can track him posting a tweet about something and then the tweet, or not the tweet, but the asset or whatever he's talking about just goes up. Case in point, he did that recently. Minutes later, the thing just explodes upward. There was a video that came out of him and some of them was asking about Dogecoin, and he said that, if memory serves correctly, Dogecoin was created as a way to mock cryptocurrencies. Like it's
a meme.
It's a meme, right? So those people know that about Doge. Doge is an internet meme where it's like this like Japanese dog, and they were like, hey, let's just make this a currency. So they did. But what Elon was saying is that's the irony of this joke actually becoming a legit thing, where it actually has, 35 cents is not really valuable in the grand scheme of things, but like it's more than what it was like 1/100 of a cent.
Yeah.
You can't do anything with it. Now it's got some actual, that's more than a quarter.
Yeah.
Like,
To think I
value.
owned almost 800 Dogecoin.
I own 5,000.
Yeah, and I bought them for, I think, 4.5 cents. I think was what they were worth. And to look at it now, where it peaked earlier today at 43 cents, it makes you question a lot of things. But then again, something that's literally created to be a meme and to be a joke is like, this is not it's not a real store of value.
Well,
even Peter Schiff was calling out his son Spencer and all the other Bitcoiners about how, hey, you have to bow to Dogecoin now because more people are moving into the space versus Bitcoin.
Well, not only that, but one of the things I have a big cringe fest for towards, it makes me ill almost, is when I see people who bought Dogecoin and they're like, wow, you made a great financial investment decision. It's like, no, you didn't. You got lucky. You bought something that happened to go up. People pumped this thing up. It was like
they bought the dip, Jacob.
It was buy the freaking dip. No, it was like CNBC, whenever Bitcoin first broke out in like 2018 or whatever, when it first broke out, you had all these, high school and college age kids going on CNBC like, how did you make this financial decision? how did you make this fantastic investment call? They didn't make no fantastic investment call. They bought something that was cool and
Probably
unique.
as a joke.
Back in like 2010, 2011, and they just got lucky with it.
Yeah.
So if you bought Dogecoin and you had a bunch of it at 3-4 cents, and now you have a bunch at 36 cents, you got pretty lucky. The thing could have also gone back down to 1/100th a cent or 1/10th of a cent
Or nothing.
Because that's
negative.
probably what Dogecoin is honestly worth.
Yeah.
That's what most of these cryptocurrencies are probably worth if you were to look at true financial fundamentals. Not against crypto. I am very pro crypto, but just realize sometimes that you're not actually owning anything.
Yeah.
You're owning numbers.
Speaking
on a computer.
of going to the moon, NASA just has selected the Starship to land the first astronaut on the lunar surface since the Apollo program.
I saw that and I told you about it, and you're like, I already knew that.
Yeah, because I keep up with this crap.
No, but I was on CNBC broke it as soon as they found out. I had it on while I was making lunch, and they broke it, and I was like, oh, I'll tell Joe that, and I did, and you were like, yeah, I already knew that.
Yeah, so which is kind of cool because if you've seen some of the concept art or pictures of what it's going to look like, it's almost silly on how Starship looks, how it's going to land on the moon, because it's so tall, and because it's basically just a tall cylinder. They basically have those things that come out of a helicopter when they go and pick the National Guard, or not the National. Anyway, they go and pick the people up that are shipwrecked, whatever. They have that arm that comes out and lowers down the basket. That's basically what it's going to look like coming out of the side of the Starship, which is kind of ridiculous and funny at the same time. But anyway, so what's great about it is it was Elon and SpaceX versus Blue Origin and all of the legacy aerospace engineering groups like Northrop Grumman and others. So not only did SpaceX beat out those guys, he also beat out Blue Origin, which is possibly their direct competitor in the private sector, because Blue Origin was going to partner with all of those other well-established groups. So this is actually really amazing for more, I guess, quasi-privatization of space and travel. Yes, they're partnering with NASA, and NASA is the government, but at least they're not partnering with companies that have a long-standing tradition of their only existence is predicated on getting government contracts. And yes, SpaceX does get a lot of government contracts, but they also do things that bring themselves their own revenue, like Starlink and other things like that. They also do put up satellites for other countries. So, so good for SpaceX, good for Elon. That's got to be pretty amazing to get the first contract to land humans on the moon since the Apollo program. I don't know.
And who better?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many astronauts they're going to try to, throw over there, but it'd definitely be cool. So good for them.
And now Elon can finally fulfill his tweet where he said that he's going to put a literal Dogecoin on the moon.
On the literal surface of the moon.
Dogecoin, put it on the little surface of the moon.
So if he doesn't do that, then this is all just for nothing.
Oh, 100%. I think this reason why he's doing all this. He's going to be like, they're going to get on the moon and be like, Elon, what's your next move? Oh, yeah, that's it. We're done.
Yeah, what else were we supposed to do?
Oh, that's it. You're all fine. We're done.
Yeah.
Dogecoin, the moon mission accomplished. But yeah, that's some of the more, besides SpaceX, those are kind of the more meme news. People watching Dogecoin. People, thinking because they bought Dogecoin now they're not the next like Warren Buffett. Got a bunch of little Warren Buffetts running around here.
Laughs and Bernie Madoff.
Yeah, people think they're Warren Buffett and Paul Tudor Jones over here because they made a couple 100% investment on their $20 their meme stocks.
Did you hear what I said? Laughs and Bernie Madoff.
Laughs and Bernie. But if you honestly did do a good job, then congratulations. But just calm down a little bit. Calm a little bit. But let's get to some of the news and some of the things and the workings and the things that are going on in this world and this insanity. So the big headline that came out of this week was, of course, Johnson & Johnson, the J&J one and done shot vaccine was halted from being administered further due to concerns of rare blood clots that were developing in patients, mainly so women from the ages, I think it was 20 to 40 was the ages they saw most of these cases in. We saw something similar to this in the AstraZeneca and the Oxford vaccine that was being used in England and in parts of Europe, but we're seeing similar side effects from the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that is being administered here in the United States. Now, J&J's vaccine makes up a very small percentage of the ones administered. I think they've only given out, I think, 7 million was the last number I saw. I think it was 7 million actually doses have been put out. Now, keep in mind there's shots one and done versus Pfizer. So keep in mind that if you see 30 like 300, not 30 or 40 million shots of Pfizer or Moderna, for just an example, that's probably only half as many people actually fully vaccinated. Right now, according to the New York Times, we're sitting at 25% of the population has been fully vaccinated, with at least 38% of the population getting at least one shot. Thoughts on the J&J vaccine? They said that there's been 6 people that have developed this sort of blood clot issue. If you want to believe it's only 6 people, be my guest. I don't. I think that those are the cases that we know about. I know there was articles running around that somebody got the J&J vaccine and then died shortly after, completely healthy, 20-year-old, just dropped dead. So don't know if that's from the vaccine. We probably will never know until there's more investigation done on that. But to say that there's only 6 people, again, do you want to believe everything that the government is telling you, or is that's your own prerogative on that? I personally think it's probably more. I have no evidence to back that up, but that is my personal opinion. Now, I did have a conversation about this with somebody, and I just want to be 100% clear that I am not anti-vax. I am not against the existence of these vaccines or these treatments existing. I think that there has been a lot of... here's what I'll put it this way. The sky hasn't started falling because of these things yet. And what I mean by that is that they haven't had the panic that has been ensuing. To have 6 people out of the 6 or 7 million doses, like at the face value, what we're saying, I don't know why they canceled this thing, if that's what we're being told. So for me, it's probably something a lot more. If that makes sense, Joe?
Okay.
So just from my perspective, right, you have 6 million doses, 6 people have had major complications of this. That's a 1 in a million shot. That's pretty small chances of developing a blood clot. I know that it's similar in line with something like a seasonal flu shot or common birth control. You see very similar blood clot statistics and chances. So for me, it's something a little more underlying with that. That's what I have more of a bigger issue with. Not against the vaccine, not against any of the vaccines. You want to take it, go for it. I could care less. That is not my decision to make. For you, that is your own decision to make. But the biggest issue I have with this is, of course, the fact that these drug companies are immune from any kind of lawsuit or any kind of damages. So you have this narrative out there where there's only 6 people that have gotten this. If you want, I'm using big air quotes. If you want to use that, six people out of 6 million people that have had the issues with this thing, and if you did have issues with this thing, and this is a vaccine, of course, that has not been approved by the FDA fully. It's under an emergency authorization, so hasn't even been approved. Not that I put too much stock in the FDA on safety and stuff, but it hasn't even passed that metric that most people would say, okay, I need to see it pass this before it's safe for the general public. And you're not going to be able to sue these companies for damages. So if they did know that said, hey, there is a chance of developing blood clots for these certain demographics, but we're just going to push it out anyways because, narrative and because we got to stop this pandemic. And then you end up having these problems. Good luck getting any damages from these companies or suing the federal government for emergency authorization of this thing. That's what I have more of the issue with. And you're going to see more and more vaccine hesitation. So here's a prediction. You're going to see more people not hesitating to go and get this thing because they're saying, hey, Johnson & Johnson is probably one of, if not one of the biggest drug makers in the world. And they can't get this thing right, so why should I trust the other companies with this? Right, what was the guy whose skin started peeling off? Now, I know that's extremely rare, and I joke about it a lot. But some people are like, why am I going to take the risk on this? You're going to see more vaccine hesitation on stuff like this, and it's just going to further push a lot of these stupid lockdowns and stupid mask mandates further and further because there's a couple of videos I'm going to play in a little bit, but it goes to show that these people have no end game with this. They have no out plan for any of this. We are just playing this one day at a time until we get to this magical ethereal number that does not exist on a metric point that we have not decided yet. And unfortunately, I think that this is not going to help the situation any further. I just don't want to be labeled an anti-vaxxer because I'm not. I just, when I talk about this stuff, I'm afraid I'm going to get like somebody's going to be like, oh, well, Jacob's angry about the vaccine. He doesn't care about people dying and any sort of other argument that's stupid. But I struggle with this one a lot because the main narrative with these vaccines is that they're safe and effective. They're safe and effective. You're not allowed to question the vaccine, Jacob. Why are you questioning the vaccine? You're not allowed to do that. You have to take this vaccine. If you question the vaccine, you're an anti-vaxxer. You're anti-science. You hate science. You want people to die. You want people not to take this vaccine, so then they will go die. Well, if no one takes this vaccine, then we can't go back to normal. And what happens? They pull the thing. So now what am I supposed to say? Now what do I say? Is it not safe and effective? Okay, if it wasn't safe and effective, then were you guys wrong? Well, if you're wrong on this, what else are you guys wrong on?
Well, I also think it doesn't help either that even after you get the jab, you can't travel. You still have to wear a mask. You're not really allowed. They don't want you meeting with people in groups. What I don't understand is Tuesday, when they announced this, Trump, the former president, Donald Trump, which is kind of weird to say, former president, but he came out and blasted the Biden administration for pausing this vaccine. He alleges that they're somehow in cahoots with other companies trying to pause the Johnson & Johnson vaccination or vaccine. Which from the very start, I don't understand why I get it, because Trump is Trump. He's going to promote himself no matter what. They get a vaccine at record time. Oh, it's because of my greatness. Okay, put that to a side. I don't understand why these vaccines were rushed, because if it comes out a couple years from now that there was problems with these vaccines and they're going to cause problems with whatever those things might be, just as if you believe in self-preservation, maybe just slightly, that you wouldn't come out so strongly for vaccines that literally have had no testing whatsoever. They say it takes around 6 to 7 years for a vaccine to for real hard evidence and testing that's how long it takes. So these were developed literally within weeks. And now we're finding out some of the problems that are associated with these things. So for Donnie to come out and say, oh, there's nothing wrong with these are just fear-mongering, these are perfectly safe, perfectly good vaccines, I don't quite understand.
It's to protect Operation Warp Speed.
Right.
That's all it is. It's a way for him to sit there and say, we made these things, they're safe. Why are they safe? Because we made them. That's why Trump's coming out. That's all why he's doing that. He's not coming out there to come to the aid of the ending this pandemic. It's not he's coming out there to protect himself and to say, hey, I was a part of this. There's nothing wrong with these vaccines. They shouldn't pull them off the shelf or anything like that.
But
for I think the biggest thing though is going back to what I was saying. The biggest thing that we're seeing with this, and I'm surprised that no one else is talking about this, is that we were preached to about the infallibility of these vaccines.
Yes.
These vaccines are perfect. They're effective. They're safe. They're a miracle. Not allowed to question them. Not allowed to talk bad about them at all. If you do, you'll get censored. If you do, you'll get taken off of YouTube, taken off of Twitter, Facebook. It doesn't matter. I can't even post an Instagram story about this thing without getting a little watermark saying go to cdc.gov information about the safety of our vaccines. I can't even do anything like that. I can't post anything on anything owned by Facebook. I don't use Facebook anymore, but I use Instagram. You look up anything involving COVID, anything, even a meme. It'll detect the word in it, and it'll bring you to a link about saying how safe the vaccines are and safe. Really? So if J&J is polling this thing, the FDA, the CDC, they're all polling this thing, was it really safe? And I'm not saying go out and don't take this thing, but don't sit there and lie to me whenever you had this data sitting back there and you knew that these things were causing problems, and sit there and be like, well, we made a calculation error and it's probably not safe right now. We're going to review it in a while. But if anyone else were to say that a week ago, they would have gotten banned. They would have gotten called anti-vaxxer. They would have gotten called a grandma killer and everything else underneath the sun if they were to say that months ago. So now what? So now if I say the J&J vaccine is not safe, am I incorrect or am I in line with the CDC now?
Well, everyone was just waiting for members of the clergy to come out and pronounce it as so. So scientists, especially like Fauci and whoever, the guys who developed the guys and gals, or who however they identify, the ones that created this vaccine, all the healthcare experts, all the healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, whatever, they've all been elevated to the status of clergy. They are the Pope. They are the papacy. You can't question the Pope because he speaks for God, or you speak how the Pope works. So everyone was waiting for the official word from God, the clergy, on these vaccines. So if you would have tried to say something against the church, well, you're a heretic. It's no different than with the science community, right? Neil deGrasse Tyson likes to throw around that quote all the time that science is true whether you believe it or not. Well, science changes, bro. There for the longest time, everyone thought that the sun revolved around the earth. Well, now we know that's not true. Everyone thought for the longest time that the earth was flat, or that other stupid, crazy things like that. Well, we now know that things like that aren't true. So, yes, we can have differences of opinions, but that doesn't mean you can censor people. That doesn't mean that we treat nurses and doctors and scientists as members of the cloth or clergy. We elevate them to this godlike status. I mean, you got people on MSNBC that have literal pillows of Dr. Fauci behind them. Don't tell me it's not a cult. You've got people that are getting dressed up, in ball gowns to go get the vaccine. This is weird. We are approaching weird levels of fanaticism. That's unhealthy.
Well, there's two photos I saw, and one of them that actually retweeted, of this woman who got into a ball gown and made a crown that resembled the Statue of Liberty out of syringes, and wore like a prom sash thing that said like vaccination queen or whatever.
That's paganism.
And then there was this guy, I think he was a writer for MSNBC and New York Times, one of these complete useful idiots, who said that he went and got his vaccine and talked about it and said that I had I'm a butcher. He said some kind of overwhelming euphoria from getting this done. Guys, if you look, I know that everything is so jaded and everything's so stupid nowadays and we can't think correctly because of everything that has happened in the last year. But if you were to show this to somebody back before the pandemic and say that we're going to be posting photos of us in our suits and ties and our ball gowns and us live streaming us go getting a flu vaccine or a polio vaccine, or we were going to post around all of our vaccine cards and we're going to make this a big event. Brian Stelter on CNN literally had a segment about why Fox News people are not posting their vaccine cards.
Yeah,
photos.
Fox News anchors.
That's where we're at. Like this is insanity. It's so stupid. It is beyond parody. A Babylon Bee article would read the exact same.
I'm still waiting for live from New York. It's Saturday night. That's what I'm still waiting for.
It's beyond parallel. It's beyond parody. I don't know where else this comes from now. So, if I were to say, okay, we're seeing there have been people that have had complications with Pfizer and then Moderna. They've had severe side effects. If it were to come out next week that we're stopping the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine because we're seeing some kind of element, and people who were taken down, people who were censored for criticizing it, is there going to be any kind of apology or saying, oh, well, maybe you guys were right, or we'll take the L on this one? I mean, I'm not holding my breath. I struggle with it because it's one of those things where, to me, someone who's young and healthy getting this vaccine is completely stupid. Like I still cannot justify, and call me anti-vaxxer, fine. It's your own decision, but that's my opinion. Someone under the age
of... just happens to be the wrong one.
Someone under the age of 50 getting this thing, I don't see any... To me, there's no logical argument for doing it, but whatever. Because even the argument of, well, you'll protect others, even though we got to keep wearing masks and keep social distancing after taking it. Sorry, you have self-owned yourself by admitting to that. I'm going to get to that point in the video in a second. But the argument that young people should get this to protect the old, even though they can still spread it even after getting it, then what's the point? Right? Vaccines are supposed to protect yourself. So, if now that Biden has officially declared, as of I think Monday or Tuesday, that everyone who can get one, there's not enough doses where everyone can get one, this whole thing's over, folks. It's done. Like, in my opinion, I think that we need to you gotta open this whole place up, because we said we gotta hold off. That was the last goalpost that they did that I can remember that was actually tangible, and say, okay, wait till the vaccine, wait till there's enough doses where everyone can get one. Okay, we're here. Biden declared it. He said if you want a vaccine, everyone can get one now, of all ages. I know that May 1st was the deadline. He put the probably our on purpose late. That way he can be like, oh, look at that, we're moving so much faster now, even though we knew it was going to be this date. We just made it seem later than usual. In my opinion, it's over now. Now the vaccine's available and everyone can get one. If you want one, protect yourself. Cool. You don't want one, don't want protection. That's also cool. I really don't care. But now I think it's up. Going into the what I was saying about how even after you're getting vaccinated, you got to keep wearing a mask. To me, that is completely stupid. I can't find any scientific basis on that whatsoever. Pre-pandemic when everything got stupid. But here was Thomas Massie, who follows me on Twitter. Shout out, Thomas. You know, he's a guy that I like to get on the show one day. I think he's a pretty cool guy. The greenest member of Congress.
Yes.
Completely self-sufficient, but that's not the point. Just a little background on Thomas. Probably the most libertarian or liberty-minded member, I would say, in the government, in the federal government in general. I would say he's probably when I mention there's a handful of good people, he's like one of, if not the only, like, redeemable one that is still in Congress and in the Senate. So Thomas Massie was speaking at the Judicial committee, and the Democrats were on the committee. Background on him, of course, as well. He had the thing back in February of March or 2020, so he already has the antibodies. He beat the thing. He said, I didn't have any issues with it. I just felt like crap for a few days. Back to normal. Fine. So this is a man that has the antibodies, so he has natural immunity to this thing. But of course, stupid rules on the floor and in the government make him force him to wear a mask, even though he has
literal immunity.
Literal immunity. And to get his points in this video, everybody in that room has also either had an infection with it, which means natural immunity, or they've taken one of the 3 vaccines. So here's Thomas Massie just laying out the stupidity in all this.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to submit for the record this article from ABC that says fully vaccinated people can gather without masks. CDC says fully vaccinated Americans can gather with other vaccinated people indoors without wearing a mask or social distancing. I also, and I believe I'm in order because you interrupted my colleague to talk about social distancing and masks and opened this session with a discussion about masks. We're sitting here in little chairs back here like children doing the people's business while there are empty seats up there. Yet we all flew here, if you flew here, on airplanes, shoulder to shoulder. What is the message that we're trying to send the American people by wearing these stupid masks? Because all of Congress, by the way, cut line. Now, not everybody in here is vaccinated, it's true.
Does the gentleman wish to speak on the amendment?
I am speaking to the, yes, I am.
The gentleman is recognized for the purpose of speaking for the amendment. Gentleman.
I am asking why we have to wear a mask when the
Gentleman
CDC says these are not necessary.
Because everybody in this room is not vaccinated, as you well know.
Because there's peer-reviewed science. Reclaiming my time, there's peer-reviewed science that shows that immunity from a natural recovery from infection is as strong or more robust than immunity provided by the vaccine. And everybody in this room has had the vaccine or has developed immunity through an infection. These are ridiculous theater, and here's why it's important. Because people will not get vaccinated if they believe you're going to have to wear the mask even after you're vaccinated. And that was a very public display of Congress. People got on the news and got their shots to show that they were vaccinated. Now we're in this committee projecting the image that you're going to have to wear the mask forever, even though everybody in this room has acquired immunity either through a vaccine or through natural infection and has the ability to get the vaccine if they want it. And with that, I yield back.
Okay, I couldn't have said that any better myself. And of course, Thomas Massie is also not anti-vax at all either. And he makes the point. He's like, and I made this point too. If there is the whole point of getting the vaccine and getting back to normal, so we can stop wearing these dumb masks, we can stop social distancing,
Get life back to normal.
get life back to normal, right?
the way it used to be.
Well, everybody in this room, and I've shared this on Twitter, so you guys can go look it up as well. Everybody in this room has either gotten the infection and survived and has antibodies, or they've been vaccinated. So according to the CDC, the science, the great clergy of scientists have all said you can gather without masks, but yet they are not doing it. So what message does that send the American people? What confidence does that send to them that says, okay, if we only do this, hold on, if we only do this, we can go back to normal. And we're so close, guys, just hang on, just go get vaccinated. It'll all be over, then we can go back to normal. Well, here you go. Here is the situation that they're all pointing to. We're saying, hey, once we do this, we can go back to normal. This is an example. This is what they're saying for all of us to do, to go back to normal. And they're not doing it. Which is showing that these masks, which I've been saying for a long time, is mostly theater. That's mostly what it is. If you're not in a hospital and not everybody's wearing them correctly, everyone's touching them, and besides the point. This is a perfect example of why the goalposts are going to continue shifting on and on. Of course, no one on the committee wanted to answer this question. They're not about it. What do you think, Joe?
I don't disagree anything with what you said. Of course, Thomas Massie is one of the only heroic people that are in the Congress at this moment. I think Ted Cruz had said that he's no longer going to wear a mask on the Senate floor or in the building. In the offices as well, which is great. I mean, that's the way it should be.
Well, so Rand Paul did that too.
Yeah, I freaking love when Rand Paul was walking around. They were voting on something. I can't remember what it was, but it was the impeachment, and they were going back and forth between the House and the Senate because they had to do a joint session of Congress. And when they introduced the articles for impeachment, where they were going to question states, whatever, the whole process. Anyways, they're walking back and forth through the rotundas, and everyone's got a mask on. All the members of Congress, the senators, all the people in the media, staffers, all wearing a mask. And you know who's not wearing one? Rand Paul, looking like a friggin' boss without it. So Ted Cruz is doing the same thing, which I think is brilliant because it's like, enough with this nonsense.
Vaccinated.
We've all been vaccinated.
Ted Cruz has the vaccine.
I think in Rand Paul and I think maybe Ted Cruz or whoever else actually got the thing in the first, they got infected with it, so they got that natural immunity. So this is all just fear mongering. And who was it? It wasn't DeSantis. It was another politician. Wasn't wearing a mask, and he went up for an interview, and they said, "Well, can you put one on just for TV?" And he's like, "No, I'm not just putting on one for TV." Remember who that was?
It might have been Ted Cruz. It was some senator.
Was
and
it Chip Roy? I
can't
remember.
But they asked him to put a mask on, even though they had the little mic on the boom stand 6 feet away. And he's like, "Why we're 6 feet away? We'll just put on the camera." He's like, "No, bye,
left."
And it's so funny because Alex Berenson, who's been covering this thing perfectly, said that if this thing spreads through droplets, right, 6 feet away, you have no issue, according to the science and whatever we currently know. So no reason for him to wear a mask because they're 6 feet away. If it spreads through aerosol, his cotton mask wouldn't have stopped it anyways. So it's so stupid. I can't, I get convulsions because these people are so stupid, and we're going through the motions, and we're just believing what the clergy and what these corporate press and the cathedrals just telling us because well, they're a person of authority and they went to medical school, so there's no way they can possibly ever be wrong, ever.
Yeah.
Another question that, again, points into this thing of when's this going to end? When we go back to normal? Jim Jordan, who's usually good on some of the issues, bad on some of the stuff as well, doesn't really... He's not a big fan of sports coats, so he just doesn't wear one. But this was him talking to the infallible,
the great leader,
the dear leader, the COVID messiah himself, Dr. Fauci, talking about what I said in the beginning of the show. When are we going back to normal? What's the metric? What's the target? What's the goal to shoot for? He asked just simple questions, things that I've been asking since March of last year. That, again, nobody's answered. Surprisingly, not really. But here's what Jim Jordan had to say to the great Fauci.
When is the time? When do Americans get their freedom back? Can you put your microphone, please?
Sorry. When we get the level of infection in this country low enough that it is not a really high threat.
What is low enough? Give me a number. We had 15 days to slow the spread, turned into 1 year of lost liberty. What metrics, what measures, what has to happen before Americans get their freedoms back?
My message, Congressman Jordon, is to get as many people vaccinated as quickly as we possibly can to get the level of infection in this country low that it is no longer a threat. That is when. And I believe when that happens, you will see...
What determines when?
I'm sorry.
What measure? Are we just going to continue this forever, or when do we get to the point? What measure? What standard? What objective outcome do we have to reach before Americans get their liberty and freedoms back?
You're indicating liberty and freedom. I look at it as a public health measure to prevent people from dying and going to the hospital.
You don't think Americans' liberties have been threatened the last year, Dr. Fauci? They've been assaulted. Their liberties have.
I don't look at this as a liberty thing, Congressman Jordon.
Well, that's obvious.
As a public health thing.
But
I disagree with you on that.
You think the Constitution is suspended during a virus, during a pandemic? It's certainly not.
This will end, for sure, when we get the level of infection very low. It is now at such a high level. There's a threat again of major surge.
Dr. Fauci, over the last year, Americans' First Amendment rights have been completely attacked. Your right to go to church, your right to assemble, your right to petition your government, freedom of the press, freedom of speech have all been assaulted.
Okay. He kind of goes on for a bit longer, but you kind of get the idea of what he's trying to say. A couple of things that Fauci, I'm gonna go ahead and just do his job for him, that I have never heard an explanation for. I don't know why. So right now, the United States is sitting at about 70,000 is the 7-day moving average for cases, but about 70,000 cases a day. Fauci says that's way too high. Okay, why? Why is that too high? Give me a metric, give me a reason, give me a number. Why is 70,000 cases too high? And, okay, is 140,000 cases, is that twice as bad? Is 35,000 cases half as bad? what metric are we going off of? And then what's the metric for when we come back to normal? Is it 40,000 cases per day? Is it the all-time low of 20,000 cases per day? Is that now the metric? Like, what's the metric for going back to normal? They're not giving you an answer because they don't know. None of these guys know. They're making this as we go. And the slimy little weasel never answers these questions. And of course, he never wants to take responsibility for the fact that First Amendment has been completely on hold for the past year. And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm just advising on public policy. That's all I'm doing.
I'm just an advisor.
Just
I
an
don't like the
advisor."
rules.
So whenever I open my mouth, there's numerous articles about what I'm doing, and I inform every single governor, and every single mayor, and every single senator, and people in the state to do by my word, because you can't question the science. So no, Fauci, you can't sit there and play ignorance. You know how much power you have, bro. You know that your influence carries a lot of weight. You've made recommendations about everything from baseball games to schools.
He's got an
to
opinion
churches,
on everything,
but not one on protesting and riots. He didn't have an opinion on that.
He's got an opinion on everything, but for a guy that he says that he's got an opinion on everything, but yet when it comes to actually saying, well, when can this end? Well, I don't have anything, right? He says, well, I'm not the ones actually making decisions. I just inform those who are making decisions. Well, your opinion carries a lot of weight, dude. It really does. Unfortunately, it does. So this is what I love about all these people, is that when you ask him a straight yes or no question, he never gives you an answer, because he has taken every side that you can have on this issue. Before masks became vogue, he was very anti-mask. You shouldn't wear one, they don't help you anyway. Then it became, if you don't wear one, you're going to die. And if you don't wear two, you're definitely going to die. So, it's like, pick a side, dude. And I love when Jordon asked him about how, well, what about people's freedoms and liberties? Well, I don't think of this as a freedom and liberty issue. Well, yeah, because you're a doctor. You don't think that way. You think, oh, well, if we all just stay home. Do you realize not everyone works in an office, bro? Not everyone can just convert to working at home. Some people drive a truck for a living. Some people have to go to work for a living. This whole idea of, well, essential jobs. There's no such thing as a non-essential job. If your job puts food on the table, it's essential. If your job puts money in your bank account, it's essential. There's no such thing as a non-essential job. So it is so arrogant and it's so white collar of him to look down at people that work manual labor and saying, well, your job's not essential because I am a doctor and I am the expert. No, you're the expert of nothing. So I wish more people would literally just flip this guy the bird and keep on moving, because if no one's going to ask him any tough questions like what Jordan's trying to do, and see him just flounder and whop and floddle and just like he's so slimy because he won't answer a question. He never gives specific answers for anything. He asks, like Jacob said, okay, so then give us a number. And he won't give you a number.
Because he doesn't know.
He does
not know.
Right.
This man does not know what is too low. And of course you could pull the Andrew Cuomo route of that we're into this until there's no more COVID. Okay, we're into this until there's no more flu. If that's the metric, then we're closed down forever, right? Just to say that I'm only an advisor, I only give opinions. Okay, I'm using another example. Let's just say that Warren Buffett comes out tomorrow. Those who know, Warren Buffett's probably the most influential man on Wall Street in investing, the greatest investor to ever live. The guru, right? Built Berkshire Hathaway and everything else, right? Multi-billionaire, right? If he were to go out there tomorrow and say, hey, the whole stock market, it's all a bubble. You guys probably shouldn't be in it. What do you think would happen if the markets were to tank? I don't know, you lose 10,000 points in the Dow tomorrow and everybody loses everything. I was like, well, I'm just an advisor, man. I'm just an advisor. I'm not responsible for everybody else's decisions on this. I'm not responsible for that. No. Warren Buffett knows he has a lot of power, a lot of influence. That's why he keeps his trap shut a lot of the times, because he understands how much power that man has. Fauci doesn't have that same discipline. He'll go up there and say, well, you probably shouldn't eat indoor restaurants. He even said even after his vaccine, he's not getting an indoor restaurant. He's not going to go travel anymore. which I have a hard time believing he's not traveling. But now, besides the point, bro, you have everybody's looking at you for an opinion.
For answers.
For answers. People have idolized you. There was a freaking story in the Wall Street Journal about a clinic in New Jersey where you can go get your shot, and they have cheerleaders that will cheer you on as you get your Pfizer of your Moderna vaccine, and they'll cheer you on. And then they have a photo booth where you can take a cardboard cutout with you and the Dr. Fauci, and you can sit there and you can post it on Instagram with you, a cardboard cutout, and your little vaccine card. So no, dude, you can't sit there and just say, oh, well, I'm only an advisor, man. You know, even though everything I say, people take as gospel about this thing. No, same analogy goes for a guy like Warren Buffett or any other guy that was a influential person in their industry.
Do you know what I think it is? Before COVID-19 or before the pandemic, nobody knew who Fauci was. Nobody
Except
knew.
people in the 80s whenever he was telling gay people to take the AZT or whatever.
Right. Nobody
killing
knew who he was. So if this just ends, then he becomes irrelevant again. And I think he can't stand the fact that he might become irrelevant again. So I want to make a T-shirt called "Make Fauci Irrelevant Again."
Make Fauci irrelevant.
Because I know that's very hyperbolic to say, and that's very that's not a conspiracy theory, but that's very demeaning. But I think it's true. I think it's very true that that if the pandemic were to end tomorrow, he would become just a footnote to history, which he shouldn't even be a footnote to history because the guy's a lying slimeball. But yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with his own ego. Because for decades to come from now, there's going to be book deals and speeches, and he's going to become a very, very wealthy man if this ever ends.
Yeah, I mean, and people who want to say that he's just this infallible being, again, just Google Fauci AZT AIDS epidemic. He was telling these people.
And another thing.
He was advising people to take AZT, knowing that it was killing people back in the 80s because, well, it's all we have. That's the best science we have is for us to take this drug, even though it's killing them faster than the AIDS is. But never mind that or anything.
What's also funny is that Jordon keeps pushing him and pushing him and pressing him, and he later says, "Well, 500,000 people have died." Yeah, and we've been following your advice.
So clearly, you haven't really been doing a fantastic job there, dude.
So, and don't give me Florida. Don't give me that. No. At the beginning, we were all following your advice, and 500,000 plus Americans have died. So maybe we should try something else. Maybe.
Well, the fact that Florida now has half the hospitalization rate and stuff like that, Florida's beating out all these major major states that have similar population size.
So if Fauci's right, Florida shouldn't exist.
Exactly. So it's the man's an idiot, and I it's one of those things where I just I watch just to see how stupid the man is, and how cringy he is. Shouldn't go out to eat, shouldn't go travel, but I can go throw the first pitch out at the Washington Nationals game in 2020 because give me thunder, praise, worship me, give me thunder, ooh rah.
Yes.
Joe, what else did you have to talk about? You want something else you want to mention real quick?
Yeah, this is probably going to take a few minutes, but...
Go for it.
All right, so, Vice President, President Joe Biden announced that we're going to pull out of Afghanistan, which is great news, but here's the problem. We're not going to do...
scratch.
We're not going to do it until September 11th. Now, everyone should remember that the Trump administration had said that they would pull all the troops out by May 1st. Well, if I look at my calendar correctly, next month is May 1st. Yes, I am right. Just want to make sure. Next month is May 1st. So, if we're not going to abide by the deal that all sides agreed to, the Afghani government and the Taliban, if we're not going to abide by that agreement by pulling out on May 1st, well, we're now going to pull out later in September 11th, which why you would decide to pull troops out on September 11th as some kind of symbolic gesture for whatever, doesn't make any sense. So, if your country was being occupied by a foreign power, and you said that you're going to leave May 1st, but you said, you know what, we're going to wait 4.5 months, we'll pull out September 11th, would you be a little upset, Jacob?
I mean, it's a little bit.
Yes. So, this is largely what I think is what's happening here. Biden knows that he can't pull out of Afghanistan. They know that's not going to happen. So he is playing fast and loose with American lives. He is putting more American troops in danger by declaring that we're not going to pull troops out until September 11th. Why? Because the Taliban has largely said, if you don't leave by May 1st, we're going to start killing Americans again. Now, it's also important to note, not one single American has died in Afghanistan since, I think, February of last year. So why we didn't pull out sooner, I don't know. Do we need to have a peace agreement with the Taliban? No, we could have just left because we just walked in. We can leave like we came in, just as soon as it happened. Now, furthermore, the war was never declared by Congress, so it's illegal and it's unconstitutional anyway. So what's interesting to me is the fact that he says he wants to pull troops out. The statement says, oh, we're going to pull these troops out. But if you read the fine print on all of this, you kind of quickly realize that not so much true. So if they go with the plan as written and the Taliban doesn't start attacking troops again, because if they do, that'll just be more evidence why we got to stay. So Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin on Wednesday said that the U.S. would continue to support Afghan government's military after President Biden withdraws troops from the country and hinted at possible, quote, counterterrorism force in the region that could strike targets in Afghanistan. Here's a quote from Lloyd Austin. We will look into continue funding key capabilities such as Afghan Air Force and Special Missions Wing. And we will also seek to continue paying salaries for Afghan security forces, Austin said at NATO press conference in Brussels. We will also work closely with them and with our allies to maintain counterterrorism capabilities in that region. Here's the kicker. I think you'll understand why I won't go into specific details about where our counterterrorism assets may be positioned, Austin said when he was asked where counterterrorism troops would be deployed in the region. Quote, in terms of our ability to acquire targets and engage them in places where we are not, we will have to reach and the ability to in fact do that. He said, suggesting he wants the U.S. to maintain the capability to bomb Afghanistan. Folks, we're not going to leave. It's never going to happen. Even Biden said that, oh, well, we're still going to keep special operations. We're going to keep special forces in Afghanistan to help with the ongoing fight against terrorism. So if you're going to say you're going to leave, you got to leave. If you're going to say you're going to pull troops out, you got to do it. Because if you don't, the Taliban's going to start shooting Americans again. And they were going to be there for another 20 years. There was a piece, I think it was in Newsweek or some of those other trash websites, that was celebrating the fact that now the grandsons of those who initially fought in the original surge in 2001 are now going to be hitting the desert in Afghanistan. We shouldn't be praising that sort of thing. The Afghanistan war has cost too many lives and too many dollars for nothing. So I want to play a video from the great Lindsey Graham. So here's what this moron, this greasy slime bag had to say about President Biden's decision to possibly pull troops out of Afghanistan.
When we ignore the threat of the enemy. Remember the famous statements being made that the warning lights are blinking red? As we ignored the buildup of Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, this is what happened.
He's pointing to pictures of 9/11, so just keep in mind.
93, where Americans on that flight were the first to fight back. What makes you think this won't happen again if we create the conditions for it to happen again? What's it worth to Americans to make sure this never happens again? Is it worth it to us as a nation to keep the fight over there so it doesn't come here? The risk that our soldiers take is to protect their homeland. President Biden went to Arlington today. I'm glad he did. I've got some friends there from Iraq and Afghanistan. This has been a very long war. The bottom line is they died in defense of their nation, not in some endless war. They died to make sure this never happens again. And I can assure you the likelihood of this and this happening again is going through the roof after President Biden's decision today, if it's not changed, because he's setting Afghanistan on a path to deteriorate rather quickly, and for the enemy, radical Islam, to reconstitute. And it can all be avoided with a minimal commitment compared to the past. And I'm expecting the certifications owed to the Congress to be delivered. And one final warning about that. If you do not...
All right, so that's Lindsey Graham. And here is the Queen, Liz Cheney herself.
I also want to just say a word about Afghanistan.
Please do.
President Biden announced that he will be withdrawing forces from Afghanistan. I understand he's making a speech this afternoon by a date certain. First of all, any withdrawal of forces based on a political timeline, and he has said, as I understand it, that this will not be based on conditions on the ground. Any withdrawal of forces that is not based on conditions on the ground puts American security at risk.
So here's what we'll get to Lindsey Graham in a second, but Liz Cheney, can you please go quail hunting with your dad?
I saw that. Was great.
I am 100% serious. So what can we accomplish now that we couldn't have accomplished over 20 years? That's a serious question. What is there left to do in Afghanistan? What? Without evidence, Lindsey Graham says if we pull troops out, we're gonna have another 9/11. Liz Cheney says we're putting Americans in danger. Okay, what is there left to do? How many more poppy fields do we need to occupy? Does that mean we have to continue to prop up the pedophiles in the Afghani government? Because that's literally what's going on. So I want to bring up this story, and I think that this is something that goes overlooked about this whole situation. So I don't know if anyone has heard of Bacharabazi, which is a cultural practice in Afghanistan, which is literally translated to boy play.
Nice.
And what this is that Afghanistan men, grown men in Afghanistan, will dress up boys like girls, do their hair, the nails, the makeup, and all of that, and sexually assault them. And these are the same people that we are propping up against the Taliban. Now, there's also some stories running in the New York Times about how if we pull out of Afghanistan, the Taliban will continue to, torment women and girls and stuff. They won't be able to go to school, which is true. The Taliban has a terrible record of abusing women. But the Afghanistani government that we're propping up has a terrible track record of mistreating and sexually assaulting boys. So it's the worst of both worlds. You can't win either way. The only real decision here is, you know what? This isn't our fight. So we stay and we continue to protect these pedophiles, or we leave and the Taliban continues to do what they do with women. So take your pick. I didn't mean for the things to get this dark that quickly, but that's literally what we're doing. We're going around, pallets of cash were being dropped off in the middle of the desert, being just handed out to village people that don't even know how to speak English. They can't read. What are we doing? They're guarding poppy fields. Opium and drugs. That's not the mission. And the Pentagon Papers announced, they said, well, we don't know what we're doing. There's no plan. You've given them an impossible mission. You can't nation build if the people don't want it. The National Guard was being sent over. Army engineers were being sent over to build bridges, rivers, dams, and things like that. Infrastructure in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, during that same time, you had Hurricane Katrina that happened. So we didn't have the Army Corps of Engineers here in America when we needed it because they were building schools in Afghanistan. What sense does that make? What is there left to do? How many more Americans have to die for people to understand this? If there's a legitimate threat from Afghanistan, then you need to be honest with us. No, don't give me on September 12th if Biden doesn't pull out, or May 2nd if Biden doesn't pull out and Americans start to die. No, that's not legitimate. No. Any more lives that are lost in Afghanistan, American lives that are lost in Afghanistan, are squarely on the head of Joe Biden. Nobody else. You can't blame Trump for this one anymore. You can't blame Barry. You can't blame Bushy. You can't blame Clinton. You can't blame the other Bush. Can't blame Reagan. It's on you, bro. You have the opportunity to do the right thing. And if you don't, then any more lives will be on you. There's a veterans group called BringOurTroopsHome.us. It's a veterans advocacy organization composed of former soldiers of the global war on terrorism and their allies. They largely supported Biden's decision to end the war in Afghanistan. They said that they weren't really happy with the fact that he subverted the Doha agreement, damaging the credibility of the United States on the world stage, playing a political football with the livelihoods of U.S. soldiers. So here you have guys that were in the fight, that were there. They say there's nothing left to do. Listen to the veterans on this one. You know, all the right that likes to parade around how much they care about the veterans, but yet they don't really seem to listen to them when it comes to the whole war issue. It's like, oh, well, yeah, shut up. We don't need to listen to these veterans. Only the ones that support the war. Meanwhile, you have U.S. Marines that were told to not say anything when they could hear the screams of children being raped by Afghanistani men, because, well, they're the legitimate government of Afghanistan. So, you know, pick your side, folks. You know, so that this is on you, Joe Biden. Can't blame anybody else but yourself. So,
yeah, what I think is going to happen is that he's going to hype this up as saying, "Oh, look at me! I'm proving you guys wrong. We're pulling out. I'm proving all the neocons wrong. I'm proving all the right wrong." As be this kind of authoritarian perpetuator of the wars, right? Look at me. I'm not this. Something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. This is a prediction. Something bad's going to happen in Afghanistan or whatever. And he's going to be like, well, I wanted to, but now we just can't. We got to stay for X reason. There's some kind of crisis going to happen. And he's going to come out and say, yeah, now we can't pull out. There's some kind of attack, some kind of, you know, I'm not saying false flag attack, but there's going to be something that's going to happen that'll give him an excuse to keep staying. Remember, they always find an excuse. So, to say that Joe Biden is excited and eager, this was on his agenda to pull out of Afghanistan, is like saying that Dick Cheney and Joe Biden are very, not Joe Biden, Dick Cheney and Bush are very dovish on war.
Yeah.
It's not, or saying that Barack Obama didn't love his little drone strike button. It's against their nature. That's why I don't believe it's going to happen. The people who are out there praising him for this move, I think people spoke too soon, just speaking a little too prematurely. Rand Paul, no, Justin Amash came out and said that this is all basically fake, and that if you really wanted to do an impact, you pull them out now, and not as Afghanistan, you pull them all out, but you're not doing that, so this is all for show. That's what Justin said. I think he had probably the only good take that I saw from people of like the establishment or people in government. So.
And for the Lindsey Grahams and the Sean Hannitys and the Max Boots and the all those people in our world, if this is such a pressing issue, if this is so important, then there's nothing stopping you from taking your and going over there and fighting the fight. I'm sorry, Lindsey Graham, you want to be a tough guy? I'll buy you a gun and I'll buy you a plane ticket and you go and do it. No, you're not going to ask kids my age to go over there and do something that you're not willing to do yourself. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that word I used, but I'm dead serious about this. All you war hawks, Max Boot, you can take your bald head over there and go do some fighting. I'm serious. Liz Cheney, women are not allowed in the military. You go over there and do the fight. Why don't you take your dad with you, too? He's got a mechanical heart. He'll be fine. I'm serious. These people are this psychotic, evil murderer. This is a literal blood cult of these people that just thirst on war and death and destruction. Meanwhile, they get paid handsomely for it. So,
I mean, that's why Shane Hazel calls them the murder cult when referring to them. Well, folks, I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Standing Brothers Show. If you enjoyed what you heard and you think that, hey, I like these guys, they're pretty cool. They're definitely not lame and boring and horrible people. You can join the website, join the Adventure Patreon, best way to support us. Hey, if you do it, you get to listen to this show a day early. Because, look, if supporting us is not enough, right? If that's not enough, it's just supporting us. We get you a little something extra. You can support the show. Episode a day early. Buy a t-shirt. I got a t-shirt. I got one of my samples this week. They came out amazing. I was really impressed with them. So go get some merch over there. Twitters are going to be down below as well. Email also down below as well. We'll be back here on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend. And
we'll see you on Monday.
As always, thanks for listening.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, plane. Tranquility, we copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.